Hello and welcome. From my perspective as a legal expert in technology right here in Romania, I get a front row seat to this incredible clash happening every day. On one side, you have this brilliant, super fast world of artificial intelligence, and on the other are slow, very deliberate, and let's be honest, often outdated legal systems. It's like a high-speed train meeting a horse and cart, and that collision is creating a whole new universe of legal questions we have to figure out. So let's get right into it. This quote really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? Technology is just not waiting around for lawmakers to catch up. We see it every single day. You got tools like ChatGPT creating brand new content out of thin air. You have complex algorithms making huge decisions that affect our lives. And all of this is happening in this massive legal gray area. It's like we're all trying to navigate a maze, but nobody's been given a map. So that brings us to the big one, really the most fundamental question of all. Who's in charge when the AI gets it wrong? If a self-driving car has an accident or a medical AI messes up a diagnosis, who's legally on the hook? This is not some far-off futuristic problem anymore. This is happening right now. Courts and lawyers are wrestling with these exact issues as we speak, and this really sets the stage for the huge challenges we're going to break down. All right, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to dive into 6 core legal challenges. You can think of it like we're putting AI itself on trial, really looking at the key areas where our current laws are just being stretched to their breaking points. Okay, first up on the docket, intellectual property, or IP. Now, for centuries, this was all pretty straightforward, right? If you wrote a book, or composed a piece of music, or invented something new, you owned it. Simple, it came from your mind. But AI just comes along and throws a massive spanner in the works of this very human-centered idea. Think about it. What happens when an AI paints a masterpiece or writes a really complex bit of software? Who owns that? Who gets the copyright? Is it the programmer who built the AI? Is it the person who typed in the prompt? Or, and this is where it gets weird, could the AI itself be the author? The thing is, our laws were all built around the idea of a human creator. And for this, right now, they just don't have an answer. And that leads us right into the huge question of liability. When an AI causes harm, you can bet the finger pointing starts immediately. So who do you blame? Do you go after the programmers for one tiny bug buried in millions of lines of code? Or is it the person or the company that actually used the AI tool who should be held accountable? Figuring out where that responsibility lies is absolutely crucial, not just legally, but for all of us to trust these systems. Now, this next one. This is where the legal problems stop being about just code and start being about our society. See, AI systems learn from the data we feed them. And what if that data is full of our own historical biases? I'm talking about biases in hiring, in who gets a loan, even in the justice system. The AI doesn't just learn those biases, it can supercharge them, amplifying them on a massive scale. And suddenly you have discrimination happening automatically at lightning speed. And you might think, well, just clean up the data, but it's really not that simple. Bias can creep in from all over the place. Sure, the biggest chunk of the problem, about half of it, comes from biased training data. But then you've got the design of the algorithm itself. That can be flawed. And even if you get those two right, there's still us. The way we humans interpret the AI's output can add a whole other layer of bias right at the end. It's a problem at every step. Okay, this next one is genuinely one of the trickiest, most unsettling challenges in AI law. It's what we call the black box problem. With a lot of these really advanced AIs, you can see the information you put in, and you can see the decision that comes out. But the part in the middle, the why, it's a complete mystery. Even the people who built the thing might not be able to tell you exactly how it reached its conclusion. And that raises a massive question. How on earth do you hold something accountable when it can't even explain itself? And of course, you can't talk about the legal impact of AI without talking about jobs. This technology is a direct challenge to the very foundations of our labor laws. We're not talking about abstract ideas here. We're talking about people's livelihoods. So the questions become very real, very fast. How do we support potentially millions of people whose jobs are automated? Who's going to pay for the huge retraining programs we'll need? We're heading into a future where the very idea of work is changing, and our laws have to change with it. Okay, let's talk about the privacy predicament. And here I want to speak from my own perspective in Europe, because this is a challenge we've actually been tackling head-on for years, well before the current AI explosion. These AI systems are incredibly data-hungry, which is a huge problem, but we've already got a pretty powerful legal framework in place to deal with it. And that framework, that foundation, is the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. If you're not familiar with it, it's a huge EU law that basically flipped the script on data. It gives control over personal data back to individuals. You get to say how it's collected, how it's stored, and how it's used. It's really become the gold standard for data protection pretty much everywhere.
So how does a law like GDPR actually put the brakes on an AI? Well, first, there's a principle called data minimization. It says you can only collect the data you absolutely need. That's the complete opposite of how many AIs work, where the philosophy is just more data is always better. Then you have purpose limitation, which means if you collect data for one reason, you can't just turn around and use it for some other new thing you've thought of. But maybe the biggest one is the right to explanation. This is a direct assault on that black box problem we talked about. It demands that you get a real, meaningful explanation for a decision an algorithm makes about you.
Right, so we've looked at all these incredibly complex challenges: intellectual property, bias, privacy, the whole shebang. So what does the future of governing this stuff actually look like? Let's zoom out a bit and try to chart a path forward. You can really see a story unfolding here, an evolution in how we're trying to govern this technology. It all kicked off with data regulation back in 2018 with GDPR. Fast forward to today, 2024, and we have the EU AI Act, which is really the first major attempt anywhere to regulate AI itself based on how risky it is. But the next step, and frankly the hardest one, is making this a global conversation. We need to get everyone on the same page so we don't have a chaotic patchwork of different rules.
So, what's the solution? Well, there's no silver bullet. It has to be an approach from all sides. First, ethics can't be an afterthought. It has to be baked in from the very beginning of the design process. Things like strong data protection and real transparency, those are just non-negotiable. But the most important takeaway here is that no single group can figure this out alone. The second that the tech industry, the governments, and the academics all go off into their own separate corners, we've lost. This has to be a team effort, period.
Which really leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? As this technology gets more and more powerful, how do we make absolutely sure that it serves us and not the other way around? We are building something that's becoming more autonomous, more integrated into the very fabric of our lives every single day. The legal choices we make right now will define our relationship with AI for generations to come. The real challenge is making sure that we stay in the driver's seat, that we remain the architects of our own future, and that AI remains a tool that serves our values. I hope this has given you a bit of a clearer map for navigating this legal maze. Thank you so much for joining me.